All right, this is my presentation on short-term influence of artificial intelligence on learning. For a little bit of context, AI is becoming increasingly prevalent in nearly every section of life, from schools to business to any technology-based service. And 64% of business experts say that they expect AI to increase productivity. Additionally, cramming is an ineffective method of knowledge acquisition and retention. And it increases levels of stress, and it's hard to take in information. And the third thing that I have is that AI can be a way to lower stress in levels of learning. So through this, the topic of using AI to help cramming seems evident. The gap showing that using AI to learn information faster is explored, but it's not in the context of cramming or any form of short-term learning. So that's what I'm trying to measure. And I accidentally have that slide twice. So this topic is interesting because lots of people use AI. ChatGPT has 100 million users on average, including me, and I also want to use it to my advantages. But I also want to increase how we can maximize it for our education and how we can help students learn and test better and more efficiently. And similarly, students and teachers would all be able to benefit from using this correctly. So a bit of literature. Some schools have been experimenting with AI and technology, and a law school said that they scored higher on their final exams using access to AI technology, whether it was to study, to learn originally. And it also showed that it equalized higher and lower students, so there weren't as many outliers. And it's becoming useful in medical field exams, where ChatGPT was able to score highly on medical licensing. So it can be useful to help survey or overview some medical tests. In terms of the perception of AI, there's a little bit of a contrast. So the positive first, research has been shown that you can balance out education with AI to form trust. And it shows that there's more success in school with a healthy tech-to-school relationship, as well as smart homework, a concept where students use AI to complete assignments and learn, which also has an impact on the psychological effects like anxiety-reducing mechanisms, as mentioned before. But like I said, there's disputes over this having a negative perception. It can lead to security and privacy issues and laziness if you're simply just plugging and chugging everything into ChatGPT. And some scholars also believe that there's it's kind of dystopian that everything that the brain has ever been able to create is just compiled into this one machine. So there's a little bit of that element, and in this graph it shows that in 2023, this research shows that there's more people that are concerned than excited with the use of ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. Which leads me to my research question, which is, how can the usage of AI assistants directly impact the performance of students on tests? And can students use AI to learn on topics they know nearly nothing about in a short amount of time? So my method is I'd like to simulate a cramming session. So students who are going to take a test about an unknown subject simply learn for a small amount of time. So I have an experimental design with cluster sampling, that being I'm taking a couple of select classes from each grade level and asking everyone in that class, as opposed to randomly sampling the entire class, so just one classroom. And then I'm also asking for consent forms for every student under 18. And for the actual method, they're going to be learning through a packet of information and then taking a quiz afterwards. Half will be in a group using ChatGPT and half will not. So my resources is a Purdue information packet about the Neolithic era. And this is kind of mainly to test skills about about an unknown topic, which is what I'll be justifying in a minute. And I'll be I made a quiz off of that using different categories of questions: reading comprehension, image-based, author's perspective, and critical thinking. And I've made these questions each from research-based characteristics of each type of question. So why use these? World history and the prehistoric era is a widely unlearned topic. There's no world history classes offered at Brophy. These specific questions eliminate all need for prior knowledge. I'm mainly asking directly about this passage. Like I mentioned, the image-based, where I'm pulling directly from the passage, not really general information about the topic. And the packet is 2,300 words, and for my time period, I don't think I mentioned this, it's a 10-minute time period for reading, and the average reading speed is 200 to 300 words. And my method is used to test reading comprehension and basically methods to attack unlearned topics to showcase a distinct difference between the control group and the experimental group. Again, like I mentioned, ChatGPT in education is relatively unexplored, so no real accessible experiments have been done to support my method. However, I decided that experimental design was best for my research question, which is simply deciding how AI helps test taking. And like a scholar said, proper experimental design helps to understand how the data was obtained and assist in properly analyzing the results. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. For reference, this is my Purdue notes packet versus an average SAT reading passage. As you can see, the Purdue packet has an average reading level of 7th grade, and a different test says it's from 15 to 18 years old. And for reference, an SAT packet says 6th grade, 13 to 15 years old. So there's no real distinct difference, making it harder or easier to understand for different age groups. Ethical considerations, these are anonymous quizzes, and no names, like obviously, just basic information about what class they're in to provide distinct levels of generalization between classes and ages. So my data, my total number of students was 98 with a participation rate of 93.3%, because I asked teachers to provide at least a couple points of participation for doing this study. And it's split up 51-47, so roughly even between the control and experimental groups. This is what I recorded my data in. I recorded each type of question from each AI or non-AI class, and I also recorded the percentages. So my results, a couple of things to highlight. The overall score saw a 67.1% score for the AI group and a 71.9% for the non-AI group. I did a test of statistical significance and produced a p-value of 0.0497, which means that there is statistical evidence to prove that there is a difference between these groups. Additionally, for the critical thinking category, there was a 5.5% difference that the non-AI group did better. However, since there was a smaller sample size, that being only 2 questions, I was not able to gather any statistically significant evidence. So some discussion. Freshmen performed the worst, and we noticed that score increased with age. And as research has supported, 12 months of additional age would increase the percentile of students by 8 to 10 percentile. And like I said, only the total scores provided statistically significant evidence, and that was mainly because of the culmination of all of the questions as opposed to smaller 2 or 3 questions in the sections. And in all of the cases, AI, non-AI, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, reading comprehension was the highest score, and critical thinking was the lowest. This can be attributed to ChatGPT's purpose, which says that their text models can generate, classify, and summarize text with high levels of coherence. So that makes sense for the reading comprehension section where they can easily spew out information that's accurate and concise. So limitations of my study is that it's a small sample, only 98 students out of over 1,000 in the high school, no demographic information. Other studies have taken this into account and noticed that there really isn't a distinction between race, and if anything, a study from Georgia Tech said that African American students are less likely to use AI, but have similar success rates as other races. Another limitation is that the state of AI is constantly changing from month to month, even week to week. different updates are added, and different coding is implemented, so it's hard to generalize this for a certain amount of time. And we only use one chatbot. ChatGPT is the most prevalent out of the usages at our school, but we could further this study by using other chatbots to see more information. So my conclusion is that overall, in these short cramming sessions, there is no evidence that using ChatGPT results in better scores. If anything, it's the opposite. And from my data, there is no statistically significant evidence of ChatGPT being better at reading, although it is advertised. The data does show a positive difference in percentage, but there wasn't statistically significant evidence due to a small sample size. And this contrasts established studies about getting better grades in school by primarily using AI. A study from Georgia State actually said that they set up a way that their students could use AI for an entire semester, and they, on average, performed better in their grade books. So that my data contrasts that. So these are my works cited.